Hey guys, TJ Lawton here, and I'm back today with another YouTube video. Today I want to show you how to make 128s. Now, 128s aren't anything new, they've been around for a while. I wanted to make this video because not everyone knows what they are, and they're a brilliant workflow hack. Essentially, what they allow you to do is stop scrolling for samples on your library and have a rack that you can just dial a macro in and pick a sample lightning fast, which saves so much time and helps you stay in flow. Now, for people that already do know what 128s are and are using them, I want to show you how you can actually advance them and make them more detailed and have more options baked into them. And then at the end of this video, I'm actually going to give away one of my racks that has 128 kick drums in it. So stay tuned for that. So let's get into it. The reason they're called 128s is because you can fit 128 samples into a sampler. You don't have to use 128, you can use less and it will equally space between them. So let's say you already had like 64 samples. Instead of it changing sample every time you turn the dial, it would change the sample every 2 ticks rather than every 1 tick, if that makes sense. So the first thing we want to do is come here and we want to just keep duplicating this until we have 128 slots. Perfect. And the next thing we want to do is find 128 of a particular sample. So might be a kick, might be snare, might be clap, might be vocal one shots, might be bass stabs, you know, whatever you want to make. I've got loads of these myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go grab some random kicks. This isn't going to be something, this is not going to be the rack that you guys get. I've got one with proper kicks in it. This is just one I'm going to make as an example. I'm not going to save it. So you're going to come here and we're going to drag to the top, and then we're going to just drag all these in. This is an audio channel, by the way, not MIDI. Drag all these in, see how many we got. Okay, we've gone way over 128, and then just delete the excess. So what you would do, this is just an example obviously, but what you would do is you would pick you go through and with a fine-tooth comb and you would pick your 128 best clicks that you want to use. So now that we've got 128 here, we go new MIDI channel and we're going to grab a sampler. And now we've got a sampler on a MIDI channel that says drop samples here. We're going to come here, we're going to go Control A, it's going to select all the kicks, and then you're going to drag it onto the MIDI channel, and then where it says drop samples here, and it should say 128 of 128 samples selected. Then you want to click the zone tab and it opens up like this, and you keep it on key mode, but if you right click up here, you'll see it says distribute ranges equally. You want to click that, and you can see now that each sample has been assigned to a different note on the keyboard, so on the MIDI roll. So it might be like C-2 all the way to like C+8 or something. Now a few little tips just to make this work a little bit better. If you click this button up here, what this allows you to do is when you play the sample, it actually selects it in the thing. If you don't do that, then it just calls the sample, but without actually bringing it up on the UI. It doesn't actually change the way it sounds, but it's just a nice little function that it will show you. Let me just show you how that actually looks. So if you see there, it selects that one, and I change it, it changes the sample, but if I turn it off, it doesn't change. So I like to have that on. Select all these again. Another thing I like to do is just come here and normalize the volumes. So what this does is it makes sure that all of them are peaking at 0 dB. This means that you're not going to have a random kick in there that's really quiet or super loud. We're also going to do the same with the panning. This probably isn't such a problem with kick drums, but for other samples it might be. You might have a hi-hat. Let's say you're doing a 128 hi-hat and you have a hi-hat that's slightly to the left. Maybe you just want to have them all normalized, they're all in the middle, because then you can control the panning with what you want to do later. So now that we've distributed them more equally and we've normalized the volume and normalized the panning, we can close the zone tab. So now that's essentially it. You've made a 128. But now let's put some macros in place to actually ignite this into a workflow hack. So the first thing you want to do is come here, select it and press Control G, and this opens up, puts it inside an effects rack. The next thing we want to do is go to our MIDI effects. We want to get a pitch, and we want to put this in here, and we go to map it to here, and then this range here we want to go from -60 to 67. The reason we do this is because the pitch tool, let's say you're playing a C3, which is at the middle of the keyboard, you want to be able to go up to 128 and then down to 128, but because you're starting halfway through, you're actually going +67 and -60 because you're in the middle. Not directly in the middle, obviously, because otherwise it would be 64, 64, but you know what I'm saying. So now you have this macro. You can bind this to your MIDI controller, or you could use your mouse and you can just select through it. And even if you had something playing like this, it's a really quick and easy way just to demo different kicks and be like, oh, I like that one, let's go with that. And it's so much easier than dragging a sample from the library and being like, oh, I wonder what this sounds like in my song. We don't want to call this pitch, we're going to call it selector, or just select. I'm going to give that the color black, and I'm going to reset it back to 0. We don't need to see this, so I'm going to minimize that. So that's basically the basic 128 that most people know about. Now, I want to take it to another level, and I want to show you how you can add some more parameters here to get more control over the sample. So if we come to the filter /global, I'm actually going to turn off this second envelope, we don't need it. And I'm going to start binding the ADSR here. Attack, decay, sustain, and release. I'm also going to bind the volume. Another thing I'm going to do is bring the velocity up here to 35. This just so it has a little bit of velocity sensitivity. Another thing I'm going to combine is I'm going to change the circuit on the filter here to OSR. You can change whatever circuit you'd like, and then I'm going to pick the drive parameter here and put that in. I'll call that drive. This is just so that I have the ability to add some distortion to the kick drum if I want. Another thing I'm going to come do is I'm going to come map the transpose and put it here. This is going to allow me to control the pitch of it. I'm going to set the parameter up here from +12 to -12, just so you know you don't want to go crazy pitching your kick drums like 4 octaves up. Maybe you do, but not very commonly. So now I'm just going to label all these properly and give them a nice color. Cool. So now I've labeled all my macros correctly, and I would call this something like my 128 kicks. Another thing I would do specifically for kick drums is I would come in here and I would actually have this mono button turned on. This is just so your kicks are in mono. Maybe you want stereo your kicks. I'm not into that, but not for like house music anyway, but some people will do that, and that's fine. And then yeah, so now you've got this neat little rack, and do a quick demo of it so I can select the sample, select the pitch, drive. Sorry about that. ADSR. And there you have it. There is how to make 128s and have some advanced macro in it, some advanced macros bound to it, so you can quickly manipulate the sample on the fly and saves you having to go into your library. I recommend that you spend the time making these for every single kind of sample type you've got, from like kick, snares, hi-hats, and basic drums, all the way to like bass stabs, lead one-shots, vocal one-shots, any kind of one-shot, even loops. Like I have one for 128 different atmosphere loops, and I push it and it creates an atmosphere. So now that you've made this, you can just click the save icon up here, put there, and then I have green for all my racks. So I've come here, these are all the racks I've made. So yeah, now for the bonus, if you want to grab the 128 free kick samples, I've got a link below in the description. There's no email sign up or anything like that. You can just click it, it goes to a Google box, you can just download it straight from there. It will also be baked into the rack, so you can just drag the rack. It comes as like a .adg file, I think, and you can just drag that straight into Ableton. As long as you download the samples as well, it will just work out the box and you can start messing with it, or you can make your own. So I hope you found this video useful. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.